History in Panels. Storytelling is an integral part of history, especially for cultures all around the world, and it traces as far back as the Paleolithic Age. The first development of art was through charcoal drawings of sequential scenes that depicted the events of a hunt or a battle. Earliest account of sequential art, a formal term for comics, dates back to the Lascaux cave paintings, each cavern intricately decorated with beasts in motion. It wasn't long before these narratives became more detailed as we progress further along the timeline. For instance, we have the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians. Every culture starts to build on their mythology and begins to record their exploits throughout history. We find that in Japanese culture, the earliest account of comics is the 12th century, with the rise of the Fujiwara family. The creation of scrolls like the Choju Giga revolutionized the style of reading right to left. It was the beginning of the form of comics we're all familiar with today, called manga, which even in translation means comic. As Japan veers in its own direction, giving rise to manga, the comic style America identifies with started in 1697 in London. An artist by the name of William Hogarth began the next wave of sequential art with his series of paintings called Marriage à la Mode. It was his statement on European society, particularly the high class, and depicted a narrative of an arranged marriage. The terrifying twist of this tale ended with the husband being murdered by the wife's lover, and the wife drinking poison after her lover was hung for the murder. This was considered the first of its kind in regards to an illustrative narrative on the European spectrum. The illustrative narrative transforms over the years through the reputation of comic strips with characters like the Yellow Kid from Hogan's Alley. It was one of the first lead American comic strips that was featured in the Sunday newspaper from 1895 to 1898. Created by Richard F. Outcault, he revolutionized comics through his use of word balloons, and it influenced the basic appearance in subsequent comic strips and books. Many of our well-known and preferred characters in comics didn't arrive until World War II. The first ones to arrive were characters like Superman, Captain America. These characters were built around current events and brought godlike heroes to rescue society from the nefarious evils of the world, many of them reflecting current enemies of the time. For example, the Germans being represented as the organization known as Hydra from the Captain America series. These comics and their stories brought hope and a distraction from the horrors of the world. Now that the heroes have done their jobs, saving humanity from their fears and rescuing damsels from desperate situations, there came a time where our heroes needed to relate more to the audience that was watching them. This was around the time our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man came into view. He and his creator started a chain of events that centered on humanizing characters, turning heroes as dark as the villains they encountered, along with allowing villains to have the best intentions, their downfall being the use of incorrect methods. With this in mind, comics have always been an integral part of history, as well as an important influence on the perception of storytelling.